Welcome back to the channel, my dear and lovely friends. You won't believe how a tiny 2005p Liberty 1 dime, a coin most people think is just worth 10 cents, can actually be worth far more when you understand its story, its place in U.S. coinage, and how condition, errors, mistakes, mint mark variations, and peculiar production quirks can make some examples significantly more valuable than their face value. Most 2005p dimes that exist today are ordinary McDonald's change or pocket change in wallets, but some coins, the rare ones, have collector value that dramatically exceeds 10 cents because of what happened during their manufacture or how they survived afterward. This script is a deep journey into that very topic: the history of the 2005p dime, its circulation, what normally drives value, then every kind of error, mistake, and unusual possibility that can make one of these coins unexpectedly valuable. To begin, the 2005p dime is part of the long-running Roosevelt Dimes series that began in 1946 after Franklin Delano Roosevelt's death. Roosevelt's portrait has graced the obverse of the dime ever since, with the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength respectively. The Roosevelt dime replaced the Mercury dime series, which had been struck from 1916 to 1945. The Roosevelt design is iconic and familiar to all Americans because it has been used for decades as everyday change and continues to circulate heavily in commerce. The 2005p dime is part of that lineage and, like almost all Roosevelt dimes struck after 1965, is made of copper nickel clad, a copper core sandwiched between layers of copper nickel rather than precious metal. That means its intrinsic metal value in a normal coin is essentially only worth 10 cents in everyday circulation. In 2005, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 1.4 billion Roosevelt dimes, specifically 1,412,000,000 pieces bearing the P mint mark indicating Philadelphia origin. That enormous production number means that the vast majority of 2005p dimes most people encounter in change, vending machines, and cash drawers are common circulation strikes. For ordinary coins that have been spent and show wear from decades of service, the typical market value remains close to face value, around 10 cents to perhaps 30 cents depending on how worn or smooth the surfaces are. Because so many 2005 dimes were made and spent, most survivors show the effects of being pocket change rather than collector's items. Even so, among collectors and at auctions you'll see uncirculated 2005p dimes, coins that never saw everyday use and retain much of their original mint luster, that are worth more than face value simply because condition matters. Coins that are certified uncirculated simply mean they show no wear but may still have small contact marks or minor imperfections due to production. According to coin dealers and price guides, uncirculated 2005p dimes without errors range in value from around 79 cents up through $4.67 or more depending on condition and detail. Some price listings even show Philadelphia regular strikes of a 2005 dime in solid uncirculated condition being worth a few dollars because collectors prefer coins that have never been worn. When professional coin grading services like PCGS assign numerical grades to uncirculated examples, particularly high ones like MS66, MS67 and above, these coins can fetch hundreds of dollars at auction. For example, a 2005p dime graded PCGS MS67 with full bands, meaning the design details on the reverse torch bands are fully separated and sharply struck, sold at auction for roughly $275 in 2012. Condition alone, this idea that a coin has survived decades without wear and retains crisp strike details and lustrous surfaces, can be a big driver of value even for common dates and normal production runs. But the real leaps in value beyond face, the ones where a coin becomes truly interesting to collectors, come from errors, mistakes, die issues, and mint varieties. These are coins that did not come off the production line exactly as intended due to mechanical issues, human oversight, or occasional misfeeds during minting. When such coins survived quality control and entered circulation or collectors' hands, they are far rarer and thus often much more valuable. Let's explore the most important error and variety types associated with the 2005p dime and how they influence market value. One of the most collectible error types in modern dimes, including 2005p Roosevelt dimes, is the missing clad layer error. Because modern dimes have a layered construction, a failure in the bonding between the copper core and the outer copper nickel layers can result in a coin where the outer surface either partially or wholly exposes the copper core. These coins are unmistakable because they show the reddish copper where a normal dime would be silver colored. In error markets, such missing clad examples While most 2012 D dimes you find in your change jar are just everyday money, a select few because of condition rarity, minting errors, and unexpected mint mark oddities have real collectible value and have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. In this script we're going to explore everything about the 2012 D Roosevelt dime from its history and how it circulated, to the many ways that errors, mistakes, and rare variations can make certain examples much more valuable than just 10 cents. The 2012 Roosevelt dime is part of the long-running Roosevelt series that began in 1946 shortly after the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His portrait appears on the obverse, with the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust and the denomination and date nearby. The reverse of the Roosevelt dime features a torch held between an olive branch and oak branch, symbols of peace and strength, and this design has endured for decades as one of the most familiar pieces of U.S. coinage. After 1965, Roosevelt dimes were struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition rather than silver, meaning they contain no precious metal and their intrinsic bullion value is essentially equal to their face value of 10 cents in everyday commerce. In 2012 the Denver Mint produced a large number of these coins. Approximately 808 million 2012 D Roosevelt dimes were struck for circulation. With such a huge production run, most of these coins entered everyday circulation and are still common today. If you find a 2012 D dime that has been handled in wallets, spent in vending machines, or kept loose in jars for years, it is likely worth only 10 cents to a few cents above face value because it is abundant and worn. In typical circulated grades, many coin price guides and dealer estimates place 2012 D dimes at around 15 cents on average, and even high-grade uncertified pieces usually don't exceed a couple of dollars unless they have something special about them. Like all modern coins, the face value of a 2012 D dime is just the starting point. Its collector value can be very different from its face value depending on condition and whether it exhibits any unusual characteristics. When most people picture a dime, they think of the everyday coin that fits easily in a pocket and buys a small amount of candy. But coins that survive in exceptional condition or that have unique minting quirks, especially those created by mistakes that slipped past mint quality control, can be worth many times more than their 10-cent face value. Even without errors, some 2012 dimes in uncirculated condition command premiums because they are rare survivors that show crisp details and minimal wear. Collectors grade coins using a scale where MS Mint state grades indicate uncirculated condition, and numbers like MS60 to MS70 describe how close a coin is to perfection. In the case of a 2012 D dime, uncirculated examples without errors might sell for between about $3 and up to $7 or more, or even higher if the coin shows strong detail and eye appeal. Some grading guides estimate that a 2012 D dime in uncirculated MS65 condition can be worth more than its face value because collectors seek well-preserved modern coins as part of complete Roosevelt dime sets. More dramatically, at the very high end of condition rarity, uncirculated 2012 dimes that receive professional grading in near-perfect grades can command hundreds of dollars. For example, coins graded at the very top of the scale MS67 or MS68 pair incredible preservation with collector demand, and such coins can sometimes sell for well into the double or even triple-digit range at auction. At least one 2012 Roosevelt dime graded MS68 full bands, a designation indicating strong strike quality on the torch bands on the reverse, realized almost $2,000 in auction results, demonstrating how high condition rarity can push value far beyond face. The concept of full bands is important to collectors of Roosevelt dimes because it signals that the torch design shows complete horizontal bands, a sign of strong strike and desirable detail, and coins with this characteristic in high grades can command premiums above typical uncirculated examples. Condition and grading are just part of the story. The really compelling part of the 2012 D dime's potential value lies in mint errors and unusual production varieties, coins that were struck incorrectly, lost parts of their design during the striking process, or were otherwise altered in ways that make them stand out from the millions of ordinary strikes that year. These errors happened during coin production, not from wear and tear after the coin left the mint, and that's why collectors value them as true mint anomalies. One of the most dramatic and collectible error types in the Roosevelt dime series, including 2012 D, is the no reeded edge error. Modern dimes are normally struck with reeded edges, meaning they have a series of small grooves around the circumfer. My great coin collectors, now, we're going to explore everything about the 2014 D Roosevelt dime, from its origin and typical worth in circulation to the rare possibilities and error types that attract serious collector interest and significantly increase its current market value. The 2014 Roosevelt dime belongs to the long-running Roosevelt series that debuted in 1946 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt shortly after his death. Roosevelt's portrait appears on the obverse front of every dime in this series, with inscriptions including Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the year of issue. The reverse features a torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch, symbols of peace and strength, a design that has become iconic through decades of everyday circulation. The coin's designer was John R. Sinek, who first created the Roosevelt dime in the mid-20th century. The 2014 D dime was struck at the Denver Mint, indicated by the small D mint mark located near the date on the obverse. In that year, the Denver facility produced approximately 1,177,000,000 Roosevelt dimes for circulation, making it an abundant issue that can still be found easily in change and in coin rolls today. Because so many were released and used across everyday commerce, from vending machines to cash registers, the vast majority of 2014 D dimes have been handled over the years and show signs of wear. In normal circulated condition, where the coin has been used and shows wear from years of use, the market value of a 2014 D dime remains very close to its face value of 10 cents. That is the baseline value for coins that simply look like what you and I spend every day. Even coins that are only moderately worn but still identifiable as ordinary circulation pieces rarely command much above face value among dealers and collectors, because there are so many of them and they do not possess any traits that make them rare or distinctive. But the story changes significantly when you look at coins that have survived in exceptional condition or that have experienced unexpected mint errors or unusual features during production. Before we dive into all of the error types and unusual varieties, it's important to understand that condition alone, regardless of errors, can elevate the value of a 2014 D dime above face value. Coins are graded based on how much wear and tear they have experienced since they left the mint. A coin that has never been circulated and still exhibits its original mint luster, known as an uncirculated coin, can be worth more because such examples are relatively scarce compared to worn coins. Collectors use a numerical grading scale that ranges from MS-60 uncirculated with noticeable imperfections up through MS-70 perfect and flawless, and prices generally increase as coins earn higher grades. For the 2014 D Roosevelt dime, typical uncirculated examples in lower uncirculated grades around MS-60 to MS-63 often fetch more than their face value, perhaps a few dollars depending on demand and strike quality. Coins that show sharper details and stronger surface quality, especially those earning higher grades like MS-65 and above, are significantly rarer and can command stronger premiums. Some guided prices indicate that well-graded uncirculated 2014 D dimes can reach several dollars or more in the collector market. A key factor collectors look for in Roosevelt dimes is the designation known as full bands FB, which refers to the complete and distinct horizontal lines across the bands on the torch on the reverse of the coin. The presence of full bands indicates a particularly strong strike and sharply defined design elements. Coins with the full bands designation are often worth more than the same date and mint mark without that designation because they represent a higher level of production quality. For example, a 2014 D Roosevelt dime graded MS-68 with full bands has been known to sell for significantly more, sometimes in the high hundreds of dollars at auction, compared to similar grade coins without full bands. But while condition rarity like high mint state grades and full bands designations can boost value, the really dramatic differences between face value and market value happen when a coin is a true mint error or production anomaly, something that resulted from how the coin was made rather than how it was handled after it left the mint. Modern coin production at facilities like Denver and Philadelphia is highly automated and quality control is very strict, but in the course of striking millions of coins, mistakes can and do occur. These mistakes can happen at various stages, from planchet preparation to die setup and striking, and the resulting coins often display unique characteristics that differ from normal properly struck examples. When these error coins survive and enter circulation, they are typically rare relative to normal strikes and can command significant premiums in the collector market. One of the most collectible. Imagine you pick up a small, ordinary coin from your pocket, a dime you've used hundreds of times without noticing. Now imagine that tiny piece of metal turns out to be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. What if that dime had a hidden story, a mistake made in the minting process, a rarity so small that collectors around the world will pay amazing amounts to own it? Now, we are diving deep into the remarkable world of the Liberty 1 dime 2015 P, a coin that looks like change but is actually treasure to the right eyes. If you think all dimes are worth just 10 cents, think again. What we'll explore is how errors, minting anomalies, and genuine rarity can turn a common coin into a highly desirable collectible. Stay tuned because by the end of this story you'll never look at loose change the same way again. You might already know that coins have a face value, that official number stamped on them that says what they are worth in everyday commerce. For a 2015 P Liberty dime, that face value is 10 cents. But coin collectors cherish their pieces not for what they are worth in everyday transactions, but for what they represent in scarcity, history, and physical uniqueness. This story is about how the Liberty 1 dime from 2015 was born into circulation, how errors can happen during minting, and why some of these coins now command prices that dwarf that 10-cent face value. The 2015 Liberty dime is part of a long lineage of United States dimes, a series of coins that have been minted for decades and carry with them the weight of American history. The P mint mark tells you that this particular coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, a facility with roots stretching back to the earliest days of the U.S. mint system. Philadelphia has produced millions upon millions of coins over the decades, and the 2015 dimes are no exception. Most of these coins went into everyday use, exchanged for goods, saved in piggy banks, or jangled around in pockets. The vast majority remain worth exactly their face value. But within that massive production run there are anomalies. These anomalies might result from die defects, planchet imperfections, accidental misplacements of minting elements, or even errors introduced during the production process. Some of these anomalies are so rare that they can transform a dime from a common coin into a sought-after collectible. And among these, there are specific varieties that coin collectors, known as numismatists, pay close attention to because of the stories they tell and the premiums they can fetch in the market. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 2015 Liberty 1 dime is how collectors search for and identify die errors. A die error occurs when something goes wrong with the tool used to strike the coin. Dies can crack, chip, or wear unevenly. When that happens, every coin struck by that damaged die will carry unusual markings, raised lines, distorted features, or other anomalies. These are not scratches or damage that occurred after the coin left the mint. These are physical characteristics stamped into the coin at the moment it was created. That makes them genuine mint errors, and genuine mint errors are exactly what can turn a 10-cent coin into a collectible worth hundreds of dollars. Collectors refer to some of these mishaps with specific names. A die crack, for example, can create a raised line across a coin's surface. A cud is a blob of metal where part of the die has broken away entirely. Double die errors happen when the die itself strikes the planchet twice, offset slightly the second time, creating a doubling effect in the design, especially noticeable around letters or numbers. In some cases, the doubling is so dramatic that it transforms the coin into a visual oddity, and collectors will seek such coins eagerly and pay a substantial premium for them. For the 2015 Liberty 1 dime, known varieties with double dies or die cracks have turned up in collections and online auctions. These error examples caught the eyes of collectors because they differ noticeably from the general mass of coins struck that year. A double die might show the date or lettering on the rim appearing thicker, shadowed, or blurred in a way that's unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. These differences, though subtle to the casual observer, are precious to specialists because they indicate a momentary flaw in the minting process that only a tiny fraction of coins carry. Another area where value can leap dramatically above face value is in coins with off-center strikes. An off-center coin is one where the planchet, the blank piece of metal, was fed into the coining press slightly misaligned. The result can be a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted, and a blank area appears on one side. These can range from just slightly off-center to dramatically so, and the rarer and more pronounced examples are the most prized. A dime off-center by a few percent might be